Welcome, everybody, back to the Only Podcast. This is Chris Vanini. I'm your host, and I'm joined by Austin Smith, who had to move in from outside to record this because it wasn't coming through very clear. But he was enjoying the nice Chicago weather, I hear. How's
Yeah,
it up there?
it's not so bad. Well, it's sort of scary at the same time as being awesome because it's like 60 degrees, and I was literally sitting outside on like my roof deck, and just kind of hanging out. And I was going to try to do this from up there, but between the background noise and the phone connection, it was just better to come inside. But yeah, it's awesome. It's been so nice. It's like that first taste of spring. The problem is it's mid-February, and I know that spring is not actually close. So, but it's not so bad. Yeah. So I had to come inside back into the studio. So can't really complain too much, I guess.
I can't say I feel your
Not
pain
anymore.
or anything because that's how it's been ever since I got down here.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Well, it was nice to have a taste of it, at least for a couple days here.
yeah, well, now I don't. Now I feel like I didn't even move down for the weather because you're getting it back up there too.
It's true. It's true. You left the good stuff behind, I guess.
Yeah. So not a whole ton to talk about on this podcast. I don't think it'll be a long one, but I've said that before. It's turned into long ones before. There's one game to review, a key injury, talk about Bubble Watch, brief preview of the upcoming games, and then we took some Twitter questions to kind of fill this out.
Got some good ones.
There's been as of this recording, there has been nothing new regarding the sexual assault scandal or the with the sexual assault investigation with the football team or the former gymnastics doctor. Although tomorrow, Wednesday, I believe there's supposed to be some sort of press conference or something on that. So again, nothing to really say about that until we get some more details on everything officially, especially with the football thing. So basketball. The last time we had this podcast, Austin, we both said Purdue's going to win by a lot, and Purdue won by a lot. 80-63. It was never.
We got it right.
It was never really that competitive. Kind of played out the way we expected. Purdue dominated inside. MSU couldn't stop Swanigan and Haas, who combined for 42 points. It looks like between the two of them. And MSU turned the ball over 15 times and kind of same old. We'll talk about the Aaron Harris injury in just a second, but in terms of the game, anything notable for you?
No, not really. I mean, that was as disappointing an effort as I had feared would kind of take place.
I wouldn't call it disappointing. I would call it expected.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, just like, I don't know. Losing a game on the road by almost 20 points is disappointing to me. Like it's I would say it was expected, definitely expected. I predicted 10, trying to be generous, but Purdue fans really hate Michigan State. I didn't really know that until this past week.
Yeah,
you can kind of feel it, Yeah. Did you get that impression?
Oh yeah, no, they do. I forgot actually once the game started, I forgot to bring it up during the last podcast. But yeah, I mean, from the recruitments of Dawson and Gary Harris and a couple other things, Purdue fans hate MSU fans, but MSU fans don't really reciprocate that. I mean, that's about the only fan base that really does hate MSU in anything really is Purdue basketball. But
yeah, you know what? That's true. It's just funny to me. It's funny to me that I made it this far in my life, the entire time being a diehard Michigan State fan, student, post-grad supporter, whatever. And it never occurred to me. Like it never registered with me that, I guess the advent of Twitter probably opened.
Right. They used to jump in the Only Colors comments.
Yeah. Oh, some of them did. Trust me. After that game, a couple of them got in there. I had to take care of some of that retroactively, but you could feel it in the way their team played too. They just don't like Michigan State. And, there have been some great years with rivalries for these teams. Those Robbie Hummel, Juwan Johnson, Etwan Moore teams, I hated those teams. But it's like a fleeting thing. Like I probably put, definitely Michigan, definitely Wisconsin. And then I would even say historically, Ohio State and Indiana, I probably would put above or at the same level as a rivalry with Purdue. I guess it just never,
I think I think MSU fans respect the hell out of Purdue.
Oh, that's 100%. Respect is a great. I have nothing but respect. They've had some really, really good teams down there.
And MSU knows what it's like to be the number 2 school in a state,
2 or 3
in a state.
2 or 3, depending.
Yeah, well, I guess if you count Notre Dame, but yeah, I think it's a team built on defense and blue collar, hard work, gritty mentality. I think there's always kind of been
Indiana, baby,
respect there for that. But I guess I don't know. The just a couple of recruiting things seem to really kind of set it off, and then
it was the Gary year.
Well, Dawson was the first big one.
Oh, that's true. Was that the one where he hired Russell Bird for a camp and Dawson was there or something like that?
I don't remember the whole deal, but
that
Purdue fans, I guess, thought Dawson got paid or something. But
I would be shocked if that happened. Personally, I just can't imagine that happening.
Yeah, and then Gary Harris, and then Gary Harris because his mom went to Purdue, so that was.
Hey man, listen, I don't mean to sound disrespectful or dismissive or anything, but close the recruits in your own state. That's not our fault. It's not Michigan State's fault that they wanted to come play for a Hall of Fame coach. It's not their fault they wanted to come play for Final Fours and things like that. Like, close the recruits in your own state. You live or you exist in this hotbed of basketball. The fact that you can't close them is not necessarily our fault. So I don't know. It was just funny. I got that whole vibe leading up to it and after it. And then during the game, like you could tell, I will say I tweeted this and it got a lot more love than I was expecting. I will give Purdue fans and their blind momentary hatred a lot of begrudging respect because they were willing to scream out, "We love Dakich."
Yeah, that was good.
During that game, which I thought was really funny.
Yeah,
but I also find it hysterical that fan base, of all the fan bases, would be the one to team up with Dan Dakich, former Indiana head coach whose son plays at Michigan and is a fervent open Indiana supporter. Like, hey man, like if you're really hate, that's what really kind of opened my eyes to how much they hated Michigan State. They're willing to go root for a guy associated with what should be their absolute rival, just for a momentary spurn of a team that doesn't. I'm not going to say we don't care about Purdue because I respect the hell out of them. I think they're I really do think they're a very strong program, but like I don't hate them the way they hate Michigan. I don't have the emotion towards them they do towards Michigan State. I just thought it was crazy.
I think MSU fans root for Purdue in the NCAA tournament or something like that. When I covered the 2010 NCAA tournament for the State News, the first round, MSU was out in Spokane, and Purdue was at that same site, and the Purdue band and the Purdue fans cheered for MSU, who played. I think they played after Purdue.
2010.
Yeah, it was in Spokane. Purdue played. I don't remember.
That was when they beat Maryland, right? That was when Michigan State played Maryland.
Yeah, and you can see the Purdue, actually in the clip of that, you can see the Purdue band celebrating when Corey Lucius sits at shopping.
Thank you.
I just thought that was funny. But back to the game.
Yeah, sorry, I got sidetracked there.
That's fine. There's not a ton to say. I mean, Nick Ward was mostly ineffective against guys that are bigger than him, which we already know. Cassius Winston was the good and bad, 1 for 5 shooting, 4 assists, but also had 3 turnovers. Alvin Ellis was not MSU's leading scorer, but he had 10 points, 4 for 8 shooting, had a decent game. McQuaid hit 3 3-pointers, something that we didn't see from him. But I think probably the biggest story was Miles Bridges, who finishes with 14 points and 9 rebounds and almost another double-double. But he just looked. It's a credit to how good he is, but to put up those numbers despite just looking totally out of whack. He had 4 turnovers. He only had 3 2-point shots. He went 0 for 3 on 2-pointers compared to 4 for 6 from deep. So, I mean, he was hitting the deep shots, but he was not getting moving inside against. I think the length of Purdue, the defense of Purdue, kind of skirted him away from posting up at all or driving to the bucket. He just kind of seemed flustered for much of the game, and he still put up 14 points, but all of that was either at the 3-point line or at the free throw line.
Yeah, that to me is you said he took 6 threes and 3 twos. That's the inverse of what it should be with Miles Bridges. I think in an ideal world, as good as he is, as good as Miles Bridges, as talented as he is, he's an NBA player, a plus athlete, can stroke it a little bit. Like, he is not meant to be an alpha. He's not. I don't think from any point on in his career he'll ever be like the primary ball handler, creator for his team. It's just not his strong suit, at least at this point in his career. He turned, like you said, he had 4 turnovers, turns the ball over. He's asked, unfortunately, with this roster, and especially against a team like Purdue that has such a massive size advantage, he's asked to do too much. And, whether that would be the case on next year's team when they get a little more playmaking, they grow up a little bit. I don't think it necessarily would be the case next year, but, he doesn't play with a shot creator consistently. Winston doesn't get the minutes. Tum Tum's not that. There really isn't a 2 guard that does that for them. And so he's asked to do a lot. And, I think what he has to concentrate on moving forward is flipping those shot totals around. Yes, he hit 4 out of his 6 threes. That's great. But this team has enough guys that can at least nominally shoot the 3. They need him to be on the baseline. They need him to be on the glass. They need him to be attacking the rim and getting the opposing bigs into foul trouble. That's the type of game he should be playing. And he has these freshman stretches, and it seems like it happens in the first half more often than it happens in the second half, or at least lately. But he just settles. If he gets the slightest look from deep, he'll pull it. And you listen again. He made 4 out of 6. He's shooting 40% of the season. He's he's capable college 3-point shooter. But he's asked to do too much, and he kind of applies himself in the wrong ways sometimes. And I can understand how fans would get frustrated with that. But also, he doesn't have a whole lot of help here. So.
Yeah. When your power forward's taking twice as many threes as he is 2s in a game, there you go. It's a sign of settling. And he made them. He made some of them, but he's had games like that where he didn't make them, and he's not being active enough offensively. Probably assertive. Yeah, post up, take it, drive it a little bit, get more.
Go to the bucket. He's such a good athlete. And he's not a tremendous ball handler, but he's a good enough athlete to go in there and cause some problems for the other team. Getting those 2 bigs into foul trouble would have been the best possible thing that could have happened. Nick Ward doesn't have the size to consistently make it happen against either of them.
Yeah.
And Bridges should have been taking it right at him. Make him make a play. Make him make a defensive, try to block a shot. They were calling every single touch foul in the second half, like they seem to do every half. So, might as well take it in there and make the refs blow the whistle.
He's actually second on the team in 3-point attempts and 3-point makes. He's making 40%, 40% on the year. He's shooting 55% on 2s. But he's a hell of a player. He's a hell of a player. Could be a lottery pick. I just think when he's taking 3s, it's generally a sign of him getting a little flustered, and
I would agree.
Moving forward, those aren't the that's not the ratio you want to see him.
No, and it's in a different role. Again, I think if he played with a dominant point guard, if he played with a slashing 2 who can create, you would see if not only in a more explosive, which if you can even believe that, but a more efficient. But he's a straight line driver. If he has somebody that can create a little bit of space, like make his defender help, and he's got a straight line to the basket, he is going to finish 90% of the time, and half of that time it's going to be with a huge dunk. Yeah. So, or he'll get fouled or something. But he has to create space for himself, and he doesn't have the handle to do it right now. And he doesn't have reliable threats around him to give him great spacing. So he's in a tough position at the moment. But Purdue is the worst of the worst with that. Hopefully, kind of moving forward, we get a little more space.
That's my biggest takeaway from the game itself is that Purdue is just the absolute worst matchup in the entire country for MSU. With Haas and Swanigan, like there's no one else who can do what Purdue does. No one else can do it at the same level, I don't think. And that's right. MSU's by far their greatest weakness. It's such an incredibly bad matchup for MSU that there's nothing you can do to change it. You just hope a bunch of breaks go your way, and they didn't, and you get blown out in a game like that, which was expected. Purdue's a hell of a team, and it's just the worst possible matchup.
It's just a bad matchup. Just a really, really bad. We knew that coming into the year.
Right. Every time they dump it into Swanigan, dump it into Haas, and you're just like, you just got to let it go and see what happens. You hope they miss because the way Purdue plays it, it's a little hard to double because they're typically not getting the ball on the baseline. They're typically getting it upper. So it's harder to double and not leave a guy completely wide open. So
even if you do double, they've got I think they have 5 guys that shoot 40+% from 3. So you've got threats all around the place. I mean, it's just like you said. It's. I think there was a little bit of Final Four talk going on Twitter about Purdue after the game. I'm not sure I'm there yet with that team, but for Michigan State, I mean, they're going to look like a Final Four team every time they play a team like Michigan State. Right. So you've got Isaac Haas is literally 8 inches taller than Kenny Goins. Like, I mean, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do? What are you going to do? So
what are you going to do? Just say.
The other story, the other big story coming out of the game, which has a lot of future ramifications, is Aaron Harris goes down with a right knee injury. He's out for the year. He's out for his career as a senior. And one of MSU's most talented and explosive offensive weapons is now out. And terrible for him and everything that goes along with it. I saw that I guess Harris has to keep his knee like straight for 3 or 4 weeks before he can even have surgery because of the swelling. I can't even imagine how much that would suck. Just tough for a guy who's had an up and down 2 years, but had a lot of talent and so you hope everything works out for him down the road.
I feel bad for him. Yeah, you got to feel bad. That's just a tough. You hate to see a guy take a serious injury, no matter what point in his career it is, but especially for that to be, to have the door slammed shut on your collegiate career unexpectedly like that. It's just too bad. I genuinely feel for the kid, especially whatever type of pro career he's plans on having is now on hold. For probably at least a year. I don't know what the injury was to his knee, but I have to imagine if he's keeping his legs straight for 3 weeks.
I don't think they ever announced what it was.
I saw severe sprain, but that could. I mean, I don't know if that means a fracture. I don't know.
If he's getting surgery, I can't imagine.
Right, it's got to be something. So, but I think it's the problem is it might be structural instead of muscular. So I don't want to speculate, but it sucks for him. And then I think where you were going to go with this is what it means for the team moving forward.
I mean, like I said, he leads the team in 3-pointers made and 3-pointers attempted. It's we talked last week about should Alvin Ellis start over him maybe. I assume that's going to happen now.
I would have to think he would get the nod. I would hope he gets the nod over Langford, honestly. Hey, I don't mean, and this is, I'm going to go semi-spin zone here. Losing a player like Aaron Harris sucks. There's really no way to put much of a bow on it. Like, he's a talented guy. I've had my gripes about him for the last 2 years. He's can be suspect on D. He's very streaky. But at the end of the day, with this Michigan State team, you take streaky. You take you can take everything you can get. Taking a bullet out of that chamber is not going to help anybody. And so, since Big Ten season has started, what is Michigan's? What's the Big Ten record now? They're 8-6, so they're 14 games in. He scored Now, hear me out. He scored in double digits 3 times. 3 times. One of them being a 10-point game. And in 2 of those 3 games, Michigan State lost. And the third game was a win against Rutgers when he scored 24 points. So, yes, it is a bummer to lose a player like Aaron Harris. He's talented. He's another body. But from strictly a production point of view, I don't want to say addition by subtraction, but in a way, you're taking minutes away from someone who was not really producing that much and whose minutes were greatly deteriorating since the non-con, the kind of as the season went on in conference. And you're giving them, theoretically at least, to a guy like Alvin Ellis, who is trending the other direction, and a freshman in Josh Langford who needs more minutes. So I'm trying to view it as a minute reorg instead of a strict loss of Aaron Harris. Like, yes, he was a starter, but I mean, I don't know about you, but I would not consider him a plus defender. He's a streaky shooter. Michigan State's got a lot of those. So it hurts to lose another body. It hurts. I mean, you feel so bad for the kid, but from strictly a basketball point of view, it's not great, but there are guys you could lose on this team that would hurt you a lot more than losing Aaron Harris.
That's the key. That's the key. I don't think it's addition by subtraction, but we talked a week or two ago about tightening the bench and how basically it's very difficult to, because they had a lot of their best players are all wings and guards.
Exactly.
And where they have depth while they don't have depth inside, and so you have guys like Van Dyke and Goins playing a ton. This shortens that up a little bit. I think probably you take a guy out of the rotation. I would expect more minutes for Ellis, for Winston, for Langford.
McQuaid probably,
which I know you're probably not super big on, but
I mean, I don't mean to get off Harris, but McQuaid cracks me up because the only times he performs are games that they lose. Like, he made 3 threes in this game, and it could not have mattered any less. Like, it's funny to me that he
was it the other Purdue game he had a big one too?
I don't know. Maybe let me see. I want to find out.
There was a home game. Maybe it was the Michigan game. There was a home game. He kind of had a good day, and people thought it was going to turn the corner. And he didn't. But I'm going to guess Alvin Ellis gets the start. I think Ellis is.
I would think so.
I think he's earned it. He's played well, and crazy enough, the guy who everybody thought was going to transfer for like 2-3 years is now the only senior left playing on this team.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because Schilling's hurt, Carter's hurt. Schilling's hurt, Carter's hurt, and Harris is hurt. Was there anybody else who was a senior? Van Dyke, but he's a walk-on, so I'm not really going to count him. But yeah, he's the only scholarship really senior left. And
so I mean, okay, I'm looking at I'm looking at McQuaid right now, by the way. He had 11 at Purdue, 9 at home in a win against Michigan, so okay. And then 12 against Rutgers. He scored in double digits twice in the Big Ten, once against Rutgers, which I struggle to even count.
How many times has Ellis? Because he had, I think, 10 against Purdue. He's done it like 4 or 5 times, I think.
Ellis has gotten much better of late.
Yeah, he had 10 points, 5 rebounds.
I like Ellis.
Two turnovers, but 2 steals.
Ellis is at least playing with confidence. I think we kind of touched on that last week.
Yeah, he's playing with confidence, and he's starting to play pretty consistent. Other than of his last like 5 or 6 games, he's shot over 50% in all but one of them. I think it might have been the Michigan win, but
he scored in double digits. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say he has double digits in 3 of his last 5. He has 9 points in one of the other.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a stinker against Iowa.
That was the game, yeah. But, I mean, it's
Alvin Ellis.
He's playing about as consistently well as anybody on the team, really.
Yeah, and the minutes are trending way up for him, too. He's had over 20 minutes in, 6 of the last 7 games. So I think he's going to get the nod. I think he deserves it. I think he's playing as well as anybody.
Yeah, I mean, like I said,
at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it last week. I think we thought he could start, and now he's going to. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Before we get into Nebraska, Wisconsin talk, preview-ish. Bubble watch. We went in depth on this last week. Hasn't really changed. I mean, we thought Purdue would win.
Yeah.
18 wins probably gets them in, but not for sure. 19 definitely gets them in. They got home against Nebraska, home against Wisconsin, at Illinois, at Maryland. They're actually favored to win the Nebraska game on KenPom, for what it's worth. The other part is the Big Ten tournament. If you go 2-2, win your first Big Ten tournament game you're in. If you go 2-2, lose your first Big Ten tournament game, that puts you at 18-14, which would or wait, hold on.
Yeah, that's easy.
Yeah, 18-14, which I think would tie the record for most losses ever for a team to make the tournament, like as an at-large. So, and also don't overlook the two games that people think they should win. They're actually not favored to win at Illinois in KenPom. KenPom has been down on MSU this year. He's actually got Illinois by 1 in that game, for what it's worth. So that's kind of where things are at. I don't think it's changed. You win the next two, I think you're in. If you beat Nebraska and Wisconsin at home, I think you're good, because they don't have that big signature win. Northwestern holding out against Rutgers is good. That remains a top 40 win. Minnesota beat Michigan. That's 2 more top 40 wins for MSU. Wichita State's at number 13 in KenPom. Michigan's at 27, but they don't have that real marquee win.
Yeah.
over a superior team, and I think Wisconsin would be that if that happens. So, you have any thoughts on Bubble Watch and where things are at?
No, I think we said coming into these last 5, you needed to get Nebraska, you needed to get Illinois. So Purdue was the one of the 5 that I was the most willing and ready to just sort of you just let that go. I didn't even really get upset.
The other thing with Rutgers playing Northwestern down to the wire. Someone had mentioned to me that, that helps them if they want the number 4 spot in the Big Ten and get a double bye in the Big Ten tournament. And I don't think you want that if you're MSU, because I think
to play the 13.
I think you'd rather play a Rutgers or something like that, because you're going to need a win. You probably need a win. If you go 2-2 and you lose your first tournament game, even if it's against a good team, that's going to be a tough sell. If you go 2-2 and lose to a Rutgers or a Illinois or something like that,
then you're out.
Then you're out. But I think you need the opportunity to add a win to kind of add some positive.
Yeah, I would agree.
Momentum to your resume.
I mean, it's at this point it would have to just be quantity over quality. I mean, you need another win. You need a win to get to 19, and then you get a shot at getting your 20th. Say they win that first game, and they go and play. If they say they're the 5 seed, then they'd go and play the 4 seed, whoever that would be. Would that be Northwestern again? Probably
Northwestern, yeah.
So, I mean, a team you've already beaten once, you got a shot. I mean, they're better, certainly improved from then, but I would rather take the win. I'd rather play Rutgers. The 5 seed, I kind of agree with you, is like the ideal spot. Yes, you have to play on the first day. But listen, this isn't a team that shouldn't have to play on the first day. This is not a great team. And I think you just take the win. I think, or take the game, get the chance against the worst team. Now, I mean, they better beat Nebraska. Nebraska's a good team. They're playing decently of late. They've knocked off good teams throughout the season. They beat Purdue. I think they beat Indiana. They just recently. I was just looking at their schedule. Who did they just beat? They just beat a couple decent teams. They went on the road and beat Ohio State. They beat Penn State at home by 16. I mean, it's a very up and down team. Now, I think this game more than anything else is about Michigan State coming out and wanting it. Because if they want this game, if they play with the sense of urgency that they need to play with, that has lacked at times before, they should win this game. They're a better team, but that doesn't win you games. I think they're lucky that they won the first one on the road, so they get this one at home with one already kind of in the bank. But Nebraska's got a size. Jordy Shimunga's 6'11". He's a big dude, and he played reasonably well against Michigan State before. They got two guards who can score: Ty Webster and Glenn Watson. It's not a bad team. This one, Michigan State's got to win.
I actually thought MSU's performance at Nebraska was one of their best of the year. They really kind of controlled that game from start to finish, and kind of got overlooked because people thought, oh, Nebraska. But that's a team that's given MSU problems. MSU lost there a few years back. They've won 2 straight at Breslin coming into this one. MSU hasn't won at home against Nebraska since, I think, 2013, because they lost in 2016, lost in 2014. I don't think they played at home. I don't think they played at Breslin in 2015. So it's a team that's not going to come in scared of Michigan State or Breslin Center by any means. And it's a young team. There's pieces there. And as we talked about with the last time, they've sprung some upset wins. They beat Indiana back when they beat one at Indiana and at Maryland, including when Indiana was at full strength early in the season. They beat Purdue at home. They're coming off 2 straight wins against Penn State and Ohio State. So this is a team that they're pretty good defensively, not great offensively. They've got some weapons, and it's, of course, with this MSU team who lost to Northeastern and almost to Florida Gulf Coast, no game is a gimme by any means. But this is absolutely a must-win.
Yeah, 100%. Especially, because if you can – I just hope they don't get caught napping, because Wisconsin is only a couple days later. This is the part – listen, there's only 4 games left in the Big Ten. You have to turn it on. They're still a young team. You just lost your only remaining senior.
I'm curious. You mentioned sleeping. I'm curious if that Aaron Harris issue will kind of give them a boost, a motivational boost, or if it'll maybe hang over them a little bit and they stay down or something like that.
It'll be interesting. I hope it'll give them the boost. I hope that, they all love him. Miles Bridges was in tears when he got hurt.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hoping that this, will give them that motivational boost that they been looking for. But it's a game they should win. Game
they need to win.
I've said that before. They need to. They need to.
If
you lose this, then you definitely have to beat one of Wisconsin and Maryland, and you probably have to win 2 games in the Big Ten tournament.
Probably. If you lose this one, you're in big trouble. If you lose this one, MSU has not really been on the outside looking in yet. But if you lose this one, I think you're
close.
Although I guess they'll have played Wisconsin by the time the next brackets come out, so we'll see. But
yeah, we'll know.
I think live update-wise, you'd be on the outside looking in. So Wisconsin, it's pretty crazy that MSU's last 3 games of the year against 3 teams they haven't played all year. Pretty crazy.
It is wild.
Weird how that schedule turned out. But Wisconsin is contending for the Big Ten title, very talented team, but they've been close to some slip-ups. Bronson Koenig missed the Michigan game, which they lost, but he did come back for the Maryland game, which they won. They came back and kind of rolled past Maryland in their last game. They had lost 2 in a row to Northwestern and Michigan beforehand, so we'll see if this is a slumping team. But before the Maryland game, it was lost to Michigan, lost to Northwestern, beat Nebraska in overtime, and beat Indiana at home by 5. They also went to overtime against Rutgers and overtime against Minnesota. So it's a team that's been close to some slip-ups at times in Big Ten play and hasn't, but Graham Couch has been on board for the past few weeks that he thinks MSU will get him at Breslin. He seems to see there's a lot of holes or something. Players to watch. You know what Nigel Hayes brings. Bronson Koenig's a really good guard, obviously, but Ethan Happ is their sophomore big man. Is one of the up for player of the year across the board. He's good at everything. He's 6'10". That'll be a difficult matchup for MSU. He's 6'10". Nigel Hayes is 6'8". Vito Brown is 6'8". So I'm curious to see how MSU matches up height-wise with Wisconsin, which comes in among the best rebounding teams, top 16 in offensive and defensive rebounding.
Yeah, it's a good team. I mean, it's not your prototypical Wisconsin team. I think there have been better ones. Nigel Hayes is a very good player, but to me, at this point in his career, he's more volume than he is necessarily effectiveness. I think in some of those, I mean, he can still score the ball. Don't get me wrong. I would love to have him as a Spartan, but on some of those past teams, those Final Four teams, he was like the sixth man, and he really fit that role perfectly. He was such like a luxury to have in that position for them. But he's their main guy. He shoots the ball a lot, takes the ball to the rack a lot. I watched the second half against Maryland, and he had the ball in his hands a ton. Was living at the free throw line. Those Kohl Center whistles, man, they helped him out in that second half. Maryland also looked terrible. Maryland just didn't even do anything. It was Melo Trimble, and that was it.
Is something going on? You got a bunch of fuzzy coming through on your audio.
No. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there's just like some papers ruffling or something like that. I wasn't sure what those.
Oh, sorry. I don't know.
You're good.
Like I was saying that, Nigel Hayes, I think he's a lot more volume than he could go off for a 30-pointer any night, but I'm not as worried about him. Happ is the one that kind of scares me. He's such a mismatch. He can really handle the ball. He can shoot it a little bit. He's athletic at his position. He's going to be a really tough matchup for Michigan State. I watched the second half of Wisconsin-Maryland this past weekend, and Wisconsin didn't do anything that really impressed me that much. They went to the rack a lot. Nigel Hayes made his living at the free throw line, and then Maryland just stopped playing offense. It was Melo Trimble against the world, and that was about it. So it was kind of hard to get a full gauge on Wisconsin, but size-wise, like you said, that's just going to be a big issue. And Bronson Koenig is the type of guy, for some reason, that I think will just kill Michigan State. I don't really know why. I can't put my finger on it. He just strikes me as that kind of guy. So that's a tough one. I do think Michigan State could get it. I think they're going to be super hyped up for that game.
Yeah, I think so too.
So, hopefully they can get this one against Nebraska first, get to 17-11. And, if they could get, if you want to go really positive here, which we've had a hard time doing this season, if they could come out of this next stretch 2-0 with a chance to add a strong win against Illinois, or, heaven forbid, a road win in Maryland, you come out of here 18-11 with a signature win against Wisconsin, you feel pretty good about your chances moving forward.
Yeah. And they got 3 games in a week. They play Nebraska on Thursday, Wisconsin on Sunday. You good over there? There's some fuzziness again.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Okay, I know what that is. That's weird. Three games in a week with Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday. So,
and then Sunday after that too.
I guess I don't even know. We'll probably do the next podcast maybe next Monday or maybe Sunday night. I guess. Well, no. Maybe
Monday
Sunday
or
night.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Maybe
they play Wednesday, so we got to try to get it out probably before the Illinois game, see where things are at. So that's where that is. Picks. I assume we're both going to pick them over Nebraska. Are you picking them over Wisconsin?
No, I'm not going to, just because I haven't seen them rise to the occasion and beat a team like this just yet. I think it's going to be a really close game. I just think that size is just going to end up being too much for them. I think it'll be, 4 or 5 point game. I really hope I'm wrong. My prediction record for 2016 between football and basketball is just horrendous. So it's probably better that I pick against them.
I was going to pick the opposite of what you picked either way, so I guess I'll pick them to spring the upset against Wisconsin after a solid win over Nebraska. And
smart man, go against what I pick. That's smart.
So we'll see where things are at on that. We'll know a lot in the next time you hear us on this podcast. We're going to know a lot about where this MSU team sits probably. So we'll see where that goes. So to wrap up this podcast, we asked some folks on Twitter for some questions, most of which are related to MSU here. So let me read a couple. If MSU makes a first 4 game, this was brought up today because Michigan was in the first 4 last year. Does that count toward the tournament streak? And or would you consider it fun?
Well, to answer the first question, it absolutely counts as a tournament streak.
Jeremy Dewar, our hockey writer, asked that question.
Well, it absolutely counts towards the streak, no question. You're in the tournament. Listen, it's 68 teams now. That's it. Just because they changed the rules doesn't, make it any less of making the tournament. Like, I'd rather them not play in it. Does it make it fun? I guess that's the second question. So first, yes, it absolutely counts as extending the tournament or extending the streak, making the tournament. No questions asked. Do I don't know, man. I don't really want them to play in it. I think it was Joe Tui he tweeted something about this earlier today and said that he would want them in it because it's increased exposure. And my counter to that is that does Michigan State really need I mean, do we need increased exposure? Like,
no.
We're not Minnesota or like or Penn State or like some second tier program. It's Michigan State. Like, I don't mean to sound pompous or anything, but like this is a top tier program. They don't need the extra day. And plus, I'm already going to be enough of a stress case for any other game that they play in. I don't really need to extend it another game unless it's moving forward as opposed to moving backwards. Like, I don't need to start a day early. So I'd prefer they don't make it, but I'd prefer them to just get a 10 seed and start in the round of 64.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it counts toward the streak. No, I don't know why you'd want to be in the first four. I don't see any positives from it whatsoever. So that's that.
Short and sweet.
Let's see what else. Upper Deck Jerk Guy. Who's going to be the next head basketball coach since Izzo has lost it and Dane Fife is going to go to Indiana? Should MSU hire Tom Crean?
I say they go for Brad Stevens first. Really cut Indiana's legs out from under him and go get Brad Stevens.
I have heard that Stevens may have been the guy had Izzo gone in 2010 to the Cavs.
Oh, man.
But I don't think that's the case anymore. Stevens is in the
what would give you that idea?
Brad Stevens is in the NBA and was just a coach in the All-Star game. I don't think he's coming back to college basketball anytime soon. Yeah. But I think it would be Fife if he's around and available, depending on whenever Izzo steps down. Dwayne Stevens is another possibility. He's been around for a long time. My initial thoughts go to internal guys because that's where Izzo came from.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other is Mark Montgomery, who has kind of turned things around at Northern Illinois. He went 21-13 last year after taking over a dumpster fire of a program. And he's slowly brought them up to producing winning records now. I don't know. I mean, he's been a coach for 6 years now. I don't know if MSU fans would be super into that, but my first thought is to look internally, and Fife, Dwayne Stevens, maybe Mark Montgomery come to mind. Do you have any thoughts other than Brad Stevens?
I think Fife is – I think that's almost like a coach in waiting thing right now. You kind of get that feel as – because he was a head coach somewhere before. It was a smaller school.
Yeah, IPFW.
Yeah, okay.
He left the head coaching job to be an assistant.
Team that beat Indiana this year, right?
Yes.
Fort Wayne.
Yep.
Yeah. So not at an insignificant school in the state where he played college basketball, where he's known, where he could have recruited and probably built up something – decent before jumping to another gig. But he came to Michigan State. And I kind of feel like he's the coach in waiting without saying it per se. If he leaves before that, I would not be surprised because there are plenty of good schools that will come and nab up a top Izzo assistant. But if it's not him and it's not Stevens, I would be kind of fascinated by the search. Like I tend to think that they would try to keep it somebody with Michigan State ties just because that seems to be the way that the university operates. Like that's why they hired, D'Antonio had the ties. I don't remember if John L did at all, but
no,
that was a past AD. But it would be interesting to see how that would go, because that's, I mean, like you just said, it's a premier job. I think a lot of coaches would kill to have the Michigan State coaching job, like even if you're Izzo's successor.
I think it's very interesting because and outside of Izzo, there wasn't a ton of success. There was Magic Johnson in 78, 79,
right,
and Johnny Green in the 50s. That's about it. I mean, Judd, if you take out Magic, Judd's history is kind of meh. I mean, he won a Big Ten in 1990, and he had a good team his last year when they got upset. But Izzo's taken it to a whole nother level, and they've got the whole Breslin renovations and everything going on. So I think they've been adding on to that stuff that's going to outlast Izzo to keep it a program that you can sell that's more than just the coach. Because right now, Izzo himself is a huge part of selling the program, and
he's a Hall of Fame coach.
And that's it's basically going to have MSU's going to have to prove that it's more than a one coach.
I'd be interested to see if maybe like a former player. I don't know how many guys have gone into coaching, honestly, but
I think it's worth. So I think it's worth comparing it to the Michigan job, in that if Michigan had, coming off of that 2013 team, stayed a top 15 team annually, I think that would hurt MSU, because I think take Izzo out, I think Michigan has the facilities and what you need. It's closer to Detroit. It's got, I think, what you need to be a top level program. And the fact that they've continued to kind of flounder a little bit, is also notable too, to see, because whenever Beeline hangs it up, because he's getting up there, whenever that happens, I'm going to be also very curious to see who Michigan hires, because that's going to be your main competition.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if, like a guy like Woj at Marquette would be interesting, because like that's still a great program, but it's not. I kind of feel like Michigan State is a step ahead. I would be interested to see if they'd go national, or how they would conduct that search. I think that whenever that does happen, it'll be, if Fife is still there, I think it's his job, but it'll be fascinating, really, to see how, I'm not looking forward to it. I hope that is like several years away, several years and at least one national championship away. But you don't usually get that type of upset or that type of insight from Upper Deck Jerk guy. I'll be honest. I was kind of impressed by it was a facetious question, but it led us down a good path.
Last question from frequent listener Zach Brooks. Is Crunchies underrated, overrated, or properly rated? I guess Crunchies was in a list of the top 51 college bars, but it wasn't, I don't think, in order. It was listed alphabetically, so it was just in the group of top 51, if I read that correctly.
I think so.
Do you think it's
I'm going to come clean and say that I only went there like a couple of times when I was in school. I always lived over on the east side of campus. Yeah. Like the farthest west I ever lived was Albert and Charles, right by the B-dubs. And as a college student, I didn't want to pay money for anyone to take me anywhere, and B, was lazy, so I just wanted to go to what was near me. So like I spent more time at like, I don't know, I mean, obviously Rick's and Landshark and PT's, but for food, I just went kind of wherever they'd have me. Or Luha's, when Luha's was right on that little pavilion there.
Oh, man. They moved.
Those are the days.
That was the good, right there. I still don't get why they moved all the way up to.
Probably rent. But, it was disappointing. Crunchies, I don't know, man. Listen, the times I went in there, I thoroughly enjoyed myself, but I can't claim to be like a local to Crunchies, like a Crunchies disciple. So I'm sure I'm going to get some heat for that. But so I'll say properly rated.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. I mean, the food's great, everything's great there. I think it's more popular among alumni than it is active students, because of, like you said, it's more of it's a classier joint, I guess is the way I would put it, compared to all the bars down on Grand River, or compared to the parties, house parties, frat parties, and all that stuff. Because when you're a student, that's kind of what you hit up. You hit up the places that are just about drinking. You don't really hit up
Absolutely
the places that are for food. So when you're an adult and you go back to campus, you're like, oh, we got to go to Crunchy's because they have good food. No one goes back to campus when you're in your 30s and says, I got to go to Rick's. So that's
if you do, you got some looking in the mirror to do. If that's your first thing, is like straight to Rick's. I know that was like some of my friends, like that was their thing when we first graduated, was like straight to Rick's when we were like 24. And now I'm just like, nah, I'm definitely never going in there ever again. I will say, I have been to PTs more times since I graduated than I ever went in my 4 years there. So I still go there. I feel like it's slightly older, so I can kind of get away with it. But I don't know, man. I'm pushing that 30 mark, and I'm thinking maybe Crunchies is the play. Maybe this is my intervention. Maybe that's where I have to go from here on out.
So among college bars, I guess it's properly rated, but again, I think that's more the alumni part of you than it is the.
Yeah.
If you were to poll students, what's your favorite bar? What's your favorite place? Crunchies isn't probably cracking the top 2, 3 there. You're probably
Rick's.
So that's I guess that's how it's I guess that's how I would look at it. So
yeah.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah, I haven't been up there in quite a while. I don't know when the heck I'm going to get.
Well, let's go in the fall, Chris. How about that?
I'm busy in the fall. That's when I work. So.
That's true. One of these days you'll get up there.
Yeah. So, all right. I don't know what's going on with your microphone, but it's been super fuzzy on my end. I don't think it's I don't think it's my headphones. I think that one's your mic. Just like something's going on by the mic, like you're brushing against it. I don't know. No big deal.
I'm not trying to.
Normally
I'm
the one who has the problems with that kind of stuff. So.
Well, I apologize to everyone if my mic has been brushy.
So, all right. Thanks everybody for listening. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes. Follow on Twitter at The Only Colors, at Chris Vanini, at ACSmith06.
Yes, sir.
And check out theonlycolors.com for Austin's preview stuff. I always forget to say this stuff at the beginning of the episode.
I'll remind you next time.
Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we will talk to you next week. See ya.